Hi, and welcome to AI for UX. This is the space where researchers and leaders stay current with AI innovations. And I'm John Whalen. I'm the founder of Brilliant Experience, a psychology-driven product innovation firm. In each installment, we speak to a founder of one of the latest AI-enhanced research tools and dive into its inspiration and how it might benefit you. So today I'm joined by Marco Rovagnati, and he's a co-founder of Quallie.Ai, and it's an AI-powered tool that serves as a repository for qualitative customer research and empowers researchers to scale strategic insights. Just a quick note before we get started. These videos are not product endorsements, and we pay full price for all the technologies we use. Nobody's getting paid. It's just for us to learn together. So with that, let's get started. I'd like to welcome Marco, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. I'm delighted to have you here.
Thanks for having me, John. It's great to be here.
Sure. Well, let's dive right into Quali. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about who Quali is for and the kinds of pain points that Quali addresses.
Yeah, sure. So Quallie.Ai is a tool for qualitative researchers that run in-depth qualitative interviews. So this could be one-on-one conversations with customers, experts, or stakeholders, as well as triads of focus group. It's we like to describe it as a middle process tool. So you would come to Quallie.Ai with your interviews already conducted in different types of formats. You then get upload them to the platform, and then you can interact with them through the transcripts, through a sort of Q&A functionality, and it solves some of the pain points. It solves are some of the most tedious parts of performing customer research, which are to do with transcribing, creating grids with findings, or creating video clips with subtitles. So we automate some of those more tedious tasks to allow users to focus on the more strategic parts of research, such as sort of focusing on the narrative development and crafting the storytelling for the clients.
Yeah. And I know that my colleagues at Brilliant Experience and I know firsthand how tedious some of that stuff can be. So I very much appreciate it. The other thing I guess I've realized is as we've started to use some of these AI tools, even for moderation, that we've got multilingual capability. And then a tool like yours can really help us with that as well. Cool. Well, can you give me what might be a typical scenario? I think you mentioned, doing some interviews with even dyads or triads or focus groups. But is there a typical time when would it be a UX researcher or a product teams that might use your tool the most? What do you see?
Certainly, yeah, we're seeing a lot of our customers right now. They would call themselves more than pure qualitative researchers. They come from a consulting background, so they might be strategic insights professionals. They might be innovation consultants, CX designers, right? So a lot of our users are using qualitative research as a tool to inform positive business outcomes, right? So the types of studies that get analyzed on Quallie.Ai are things like CX transformation project. There might be innovation territories development projects, or we're seeing a lot of journey mapping, customer journey maps projects being analyzed on the platform. So it's quite a broad range
Yeah.
of projects. Yeah.
Cool. And well, there are some other tools now for doing some analysis with AI enhancement. So maybe you can just tell me if everyone has a different take or a different focus when they're building a product like this. So what makes your product a little different or maybe a better choice in certain circumstances?
Yeah. So Quallie.Ai is in itself, it's solving a number of problems and pain points along the process of analyzing and structuring qualitative findings. So one thing that is sort of table stakes for any tools is transcription quality. So we use the best commercially available transcription tool. So we have a very high standard for transcription accuracy and confidence in our transcriptions. The ease of querying and structuring findings as well, it's something that can be done by other tools, or could even be done directly on ChatGPT, for example, or Perplexity or Notebook LLM. We're seeing that our algorithms and language models are sort of tailored in a way that the answers are very much grounded exclusively in the transcript. So we've built some guardrails to avoid hallucinations and to ensure that the answers are um, exclusively grounded in the transcripts provided and generated by the tool. And in a way, you could think of Quallie as an assortment of different of tools in a toolbox of a researcher. So from transcript to structuring findings, as well as creating clips from the research and storing those clips with subtitles that can be also translated and trimmed and edited. So it's sort of a one-stop shop for all of those that we described earlier as the tedious tasks linked to research.
Yeah. Um, no, it makes perfect sense. And I guess I wanted to have you describe sort of a feel for how it's what it's like when you have a tool like yours for folks that have never tried it. And us at Brilliant Experience, we've reduced our time for doing qualitative research about 85% because of these advantages that we have. And then we are spending most of our time on analysis and like the psychology of what's happening and storytelling. So just how should people think about working with a tool like yours, and how would they sort of work differently because they've got Quallie?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of our sort of internal metrics that we like to talk about with our customers is how quickly can you get from an idea or how quickly can you get to a quote, and how quickly can you surface something that was discussed during an interview or a series of interviews, right? So how quickly can you actually perform thematic analysis over, let's say, 40 hours of recordings, which could be your typical multi-market
Yeah.
fieldwork size. And going from
Yeah.
a sort of really unstructured and scattered number of interviews saved on various folders on various platforms to just simply asking and typing one question and visualizing all those findings side by side at the same time in a way that is easy to search and query. We're seeing that being an incredible time saver for our customers. As well as, for instance, we find that a lot of people, and myself included in my past life as a researcher, we know the value of having, for example, talking heads, right, in our reports and having customers clips. And those types of tasks are often left for the end, right? And we are often rushing for the finish line, and we don't have that much time to sit down and create timestamps and then potentially clip or downloading a new clipping
Yeah.
software or sending it to third parties to generate clips for us. To then sort of find ourselves with a need to add subtitles and translate them. So doing all of that in one platform with Quallie.Ai, for example, we have a text-based video editor. So once you identified your quote, which could be as easy as typing the specific question in the platform and reading the transcript, you can highlight that piece of transcript and generate a video clip that is clipped based on the text that you've highlighted. So we call that text-based video editing. And this is just one of the examples in which sort
Yeah.
of Quallie can help you save time.
I guess I also saw, and I'm sure as we start to do an example or a demo, we can talk a little bit about tagging and things too. But very cool. And I think one of the things that people should think about generally is we're seeing sort of a transition or an ability to have much more of a transition from here's your deck, here's the results, here's some PowerPoint or whatever, to bringing it to life much more, or for that matter, spontaneous question in a meeting and using a tool like this to get those. So it is interesting how we're transitioning in our storytelling.
Yeah, and if I can add to that,
Oh,
John, I think
please.
also
Yeah.
one of our major pain points of researchers is knowing that our research is not being used and it's kind of sitting there in a shared drive in a folder somewhere. So one of our sort of taglines or mottos is, we want to create research that inspires action, right? And I've seen this firsthand when maybe the head of sale of a publishing company is watching a recording from a video clip that was generated through Quallie.Ai or any other platform, but having somebody really embody that customer need and going, we're going to do this because of that person. We're going to do it for Mary because that's Mary's pain point, right? And they can really sort of emphasize with the customer.
Yeah. It's interesting too. Some of the, so I know this isn't really the focus of our interview, but when we're doing some things with AI moderation and then bring in a lot of interviews, one of the fears I think of our fellow researchers and me too is do I sort of really feel the data and have an ability to really, you know, go to bat for Mary in this case? And I think that this is one of the examples of how you can start to really get that gut feeling and have that sort of passion to it. Cool. Well, I actually wanted to ask you too. Many people have considered challenges with AI, and you mentioned hallucinations and how to avoid that, and thinking about topics like bias, for example. And without divulging your secrets with technology, can you just tell me generally how you're sort of tuning your product to address these kind of issues?
Certainly, and that has been such an interesting space for us, which we've evolved into. And myself and my co-founder is the CTO, Domingo. We spent a lot of time in understanding how can we make sure that everything that's AI generated, every response that our tool provides, it's exclusively rooted in the transcriptions and in the details that we've uploaded. So we obviously have a number of sort of back-end guardrails within our prompting infrastructure that make sure that the answers are exclusively generated with the context provided, which I'm sure you're familiar with this term, which is a technique that's normally described as RAG, which is the
Yeah.
retrieval augmented generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I like to explain it sort of backwards, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
generating by augmented the response with a retrieval of data, which in this case is our transcription. And that works normally in a two steps phase, which is based on first doing a semantic analysis of the text and finding the answer in the text, and then generating an answer based on that. And that's something that the majority of the platforms sort of use as an approach to generating findings. We've been able to evolve past that with our models, and that's something that we're really proud of, whereby we don't have to perform semantic analysis because we can, with our language model, we can send, whenever there's a query, we can analyze the entirety of the transcript. And we found that a lot of the hallucination came as a result of a failure of semantic analysis by the language model. Um, so we're now seeing sort of unprecedented levels of accuracy, right? And the type of examples that we used to see in the past, and we know of customers experiencing with other platforms, are things like when you're doing concept testing and you might be showing 3 or 4 different products that you might be naming, the green device, the red device, the orange device, right? So semantically, these 3 words are very similar. They're just differentiated by a color. But when you're able to send to a language model the entirety of the transcript with the full context of the transcript, that means that the likelihood of hallucination and confusion in this case is much, much lower. So that's something that we've released with our latest model. And as I mentioned, we're seeing sort of unprecedented levels of accuracy, which we're very proud of.
Cool. No, and it is a really interesting. It's worth diving into just understanding a little bit of this technology, like you were describing, in that you're really only getting insights from what it's finding in the things that it's retrieving. So it's just not going to its general model and doing things. Yeah, it's funny. It's called retrieval augmented generation. I never really thought about it until you said it, that maybe this is just it's a retrieval generation. It's not augmenting something except for I guess the response in English, but or whatever language. Cool. Well, I think we've talked about it a lot. Maybe we could actually you could have us show us a little bit of Quallie. And what I'll do is I'll work on sharing your screen, and maybe you can just set the stage on what we're going to see. And I think it's going to be the sort of researcher vantage point, but I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay,
Yeah.
so perfect. So what we're now seeing is sort of once you've logged into the platform, this is your typical workspace. As you can see here on the left, I have a number of clients and projects. I took the liberty of creating a new project for this demo. So here I have my client folder called Brilliant Experiences and AI for UX. So I've uploaded some of the past interviews that you've conducted. as part of your podcast, as a way of showing sort of what Quallie.Ai can do with any sort of qualitative materials. So as I mentioned, you come to the platform with your recordings. You can upload them here to this upload functionality. Once you've uploaded them, the first thing Quallie.Ai does is generates a transcription, right? So you can click through here. You will see we have John, which you've done your introduction, and then Kwame talking about his experience. You can then obviously listen back. I'm going to hit play for a second.
Together with our users, we figure out that we are
right. So this is the very basic playback functionality, which you can use to explore your transcripts. There are a number of AI features sprinkled throughout the platform. The first one is our summarization feature. And the summarization feature works based on project objectives. So when I created this project, I said the main things that we are asking these participants, in this case, your interviewees, are a bit about their background, the product specifics of their tool, the unique value proposition, trust and privacy, future directions, right? And one of our core principles on Quallie.Ai is that anything that's AI generated should always link back to evidence in the transcription and a video clip. So if you use this summary you can use this summary to navigate through the interview. For example, here he's talking about leveraging synthetic users, differentiating by harnessing users created through advanced foundation models. You can click on that, and it will take you straight to the moment in which that was discussed, and so on, right? So every bullet point is hyperlinked through the text.
Yeah. Hey, Marco, yeah. Sorry to, actually, I guess I'm not sorry. I'm going to interrupt us briefly, but I wanted to say that these summaries we found are so helpful for as we're doing analysis, sharing them with our, developers or designers or strategists and so on. But I actually don't remember as many of them linking to exactly the right spot to get to that summary. So I think that's great that it does that. But yeah, please keep going. This is great.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that. And linking back to what you're just saying, we have a summaries tab here. So the navigation in the platform happens here at the top, where you can compare your summaries side by side. So this is, again, another really great place to potentially redirect your product designers or your stakeholders, right? And you can really, for instance, you see a line here, all of my summaries based on, let's see what they said about the unique value proposition. And really quickly saying, okay, see what Aaron is talking about, multimodal scalable insights. You can click on that and really quickly get to the source data. And the source data is highlighting as well. It's in bold the most relevant parts that were used here. Another very exciting feature, which we've just released, which is, again, sort of showing our commitment towards accuracy and groundedness, is this little toggle here, which will appear throughout the platform, but it's basically enabling us to switch between a bullet point answer and a quote. Right, so I'm going to click that again just to show you the difference. So let's have a look at Aaron's answer on dynamic AI moderation. Here we have a concise bullet point answer, which is AI generated. If we switch toggle here, we have that specific quote that was used, right? And this is a very good way to again contextualize the finding and put the researcher in the driver's seat and really see and much closer to the customer or the interviewee.
Nice.
As you can see here, these project objectives are editable. So this is what I've inputted as part of this research. And if you come here and edit those, they will regenerate your summaries in a way that matches your project objective.
Marco, I did want to ask you briefly, one of the things that I guess as we've been teaching about these capabilities and just like talking to others, some have felt like these tools may not be as strong at doing the sort of strategic analysis and saying, here's what's important for our company, or here's what's important, yes, these were findings, but here are the ones that are most relevant to our strategic objectives or something else. So if I'm right, I could sort of put in background on, we've tested this possibility, we have these competitors. Like I could try to say it a little bit more in a strategic framework. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. Although keep in mind that the amount of space available here is sort of limited. We advise including 5, 6, 7 bullet points maximum.
Yeah.
We're not really at the stage where you can upload your entire sort of bank of PowerPoints for your company strategy, although that is something that we are exploring as part of more of a repository type solution, because we like to think of sort of Quallie.Ai as a repository for that customer conversation and the customer truth. But and also this reinforces an adjacent conversation and topic, which is really close to me, which is these tools are not replacing the researcher and the consultant, because it's just a much quicker way of analyzing the sort of customer research work streams. But ourselves as researchers and consultants have so much more context in where the company is heading and sort of what stakeholders are expecting from the research or company strategy, etc.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, I don't want to derail you. I'll let you keep going. Thank you.
No worries. They were great questions. So to take it into an extra step here, we have a tab called questions, right? And in this tab, you can create your own sort of grids of findings. For instance, here I've asked a couple of questions. One was, what inspired you to create this software product? Okay, and here I have, as you can see, my answers structured in a grid format for each respondent. So each respondent has its own answer card. So we have Kwame here with a couple of answers, a couple of bullet points, each hyperlinked to a specific part in the text. So here, Kwame is saying he was really in the consulting world, and etc., etc. So this is a really quick way to navigate your findings by topic. And to show you a couple of things that you can do in terms of using the tool, you can use it to ask specific questions like, how do you see the product evolving in the next few years? And this might be something that was asked directly to the respondent, right? Or you can also ask more theme-based or hypothesis-based questions, or you can use it to surface maybe very specific quotes that were mentioned, but you don't quite remember where. So I just want to show you this here. For example, I've asked, find the part with the product demo. And here it's taking me directly to the live product walkthrough for each of our respondents. So here I have Kwame's that starts at minute 19, for example. As you can see, he's sharing his screen, just like I'm doing right now. You have Aaron's product demo starts in minute 8.
Yeah. All right, so
and etc., etc. I want to show you two more things really quickly. So the first one is every first card is an overview, which you can generate. And what this does is it's basically reading across all of those answers and giving you an overview across respondents. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So here, for instance, we've asked about how do you see the product evolving? And it's telling me a couple of key insights. So for instance, one theme is the comprehensive AI generation and iterative evolution. It's telling me Max, Henrik, Aaron, and Kwame emphasizing this theme. And this is, as always, hyperlinked, and I can see what Max said exactly about that topic and what others have mentioned as well. Here we go, Henrik, etc., etc. The second thing I want to show you, and I'm going to do this in the product demo page here. So wherever you are in the platform, you can create video clips from the research. Right, so here, for instance, I have Kwame's demo starting at minute 19. And this is that text-based video editor that I mentioned, right? Let's see, I'm gonna clip this text where it talks about synthetic users. And it's telling me now it's a 15-second video clip, which I can name, or I can just hit create video, and it's gonna create a video with the title based on the content of the video. I'm gonna do the same for Aaron. Let's see here, he's talking about his platform. I'm gonna create another video. And I'm doing so just to show you what can be done when you have multiple videos, right? So let's see. Valerie illustrating the tool here, minute 6. Right here, okay. There's a search bar, etc., etc. But you get the gist, right? So this is a very good way of starting to saving and highlighting the most important parts of the research. You can do that from here, from the questions tab, or you can do so straight from your interview page, right? So from your transcript page. All of your clips are then stored in a folder called clips folder. And here I could create, for example, my demo videos folder. I can move and organize my videos in specific folders. I'm going to move them to here. And this is a place where I can, first of all, play back and listen.
This is synthetic users.
And by default, what we do, a lot of our features are based on the researcher's pain point, right? One of those being adding subtitles. This is often done on third-party tools, and it takes a long time. So by default, we add subtitles to the file, and those subtitles are also editable and translatable. So let's have a look at here.
This is synthetic users. When you come into synthetic users for the first time,
so you're seeing the subtitles automatically generated. This is where you would go and edit the subtitles frame by frame. Those can also be translated into a variety of languages. The video clips can be trimmed. And finally, another very important tool for our user base is the ability to clip them together into a reel that can be easily shared with stakeholders, right? So here I'm selecting 3 videos at the same time. I'm gonna click on the button, create reel. I call this demo reel. And this is gonna be stored in my library with my 3 videos side by side, which I can reorganize and reorder as I prefer. But you see how quickly I went from analyzing, sort of asking myself, so where are the demos in the AI for UX research project, in this case, a podcast? So I've just gone and asked the question, find me the product demos. The platform really quickly identified the parts of the interview with the demos. I've highlighted them to create clips. And now in hopefully what was just a few minutes, I have my video reel ready with subtitles and ready to download and share.
Yeah, really interesting. And I think you're right that it did go quickly. And do you feel this is primarily, are you imagining, or actually with your real users, have you found that this is mostly researchers doing this, or is this also like product managers and so on wanting to dive in to see this stuff? Or how are you seeing this working so far?
It's a mix. Primarily, I would say researchers that need to create content for product managers, marketing managers, to drive the decision making and build that sort of bank of evidence. And I think our current customer base is primarily that sort of medium-size boutique consultancies, strategic consultancies, innovation agencies. And a lot of their work requires the creation of what they call STIM or stimuli, right? So things that might be brought into a workshop or brought into a conversation as a springboard for ideation, as a springboard for decision making.
Oh, really interesting. And actually, I noticed some of your tagging. So is this where I could, for example, we happen to have people who are interviewed who are European or American. So if I'm right, I could say, analyze this from the perspective of the Americans or the Europeans.
Yeah, that's correct. So you can create tag categories, and this can be based on your recruitment specifications, or they can be done even as part of your analysis. We have some users, for example, that do a lot of journey mapping, and they've interviewed hundreds of customers about purchase journey for their retail experience to then realize there's broadly 3 types of journeys. So they've come back here and created, a journey type tag, and then they call, the short one, the long one, the medium one, right, et cetera, et cetera. So they use it as a way to then create sort of order and make sense of the participants. But yeah, let me show you really quickly how you would go about tagging. So for example, here we've asked, how do you see your product evolving over the next few years? And it's telling me an overview based on 5 answers. Those are my 5 interviews. If I go here and add a segment, I can add a segment by region or journey type. In this case, region, let's use that because it's fully tagged. And what's happening here is creating a new card right there. So 2 out of 2. The first one is going to be a general overview. And the second, it's an overview by region.
Right,
So
and of course,
give it a minute while it
sure,
thinks.
and it could certainly be whatever, this just happens to be geographic location, but it could be mindset or approach or
Correct.
and anything.
And as you can see here, we have one it's European and one is American approach. One very important aspect of Quallie.Ai, which I think again makes us stand out from other tools, is that those answer cards are very much dynamic. So you can edit them to really get to the type of insight desired. So you can use this magic wand icon, which says improve answer. And here you can do a number of things. So some quick actions like consolidating similar points, focus on the differences, or you can type your own. So the way I've seen this used, it's in a fascinating way. It's some people ask a question like, tell me about, again, a journey mapping example, right? What are the key steps in the journey? And you have individual journeys being generated at the click of a button, which in the past used to take hours, right? And then here you can go, now create an overarching journey map using my framework or my client's framework. Right? So you can type in your framework in here and have the insights filled out. For the sake of this demo, we have European versus American. So I'm going to try, let's see, focus on the differences. And it's going to regenerate this output by looking at the differences. And while it's thinking, we also, just for context, we have a answer history as well, which is currently empty. But you can always go back to a previous answer.
And I don't want to underestimate, so the fact that you can do this sort of grid of here are the answers for whatever question you have for all of the participants together or a subset. I mean, we found it saves us so much time, and we certainly check, we trust but verify. We go and look at these things, but by and large, my team are like, you can get rid of anything, but don't get rid of this feature. So it's like, found it anyway really, really helpful. So
yeah. And again, just like I showed you before, that toggle functionality from bullet point to quote works across the entire platform. So you can decide, do I want to review this answer just in a concise way, just seeing what is that top level answer for each individual participant? Or do I want to really dive into the quote and see that specific wording? Or do I want to go even deeper and play back the video and listen to, in this case, Aaron talking about that?
Cool. Very nice. How have we done? Have we shown a majority of the features you wanted to cover?
This is it. Yes, it was a whistle-stop tour of the core functionalities. So yeah.
Gosh, and I owe our viewers some of these summaries, so I might talk to you after this. But thank you for. It's really interesting to see this and how it's worked so quickly. Cool. Well, here let me take a quick step back. So thank you so much for showing us Quallie, and also it's clear that your research background and sort of the care you're putting into this along the way. So that actually speaks to, you did have a former life as someone else. And so what inspired you to take the time to go from zero to a product and all the energy that requires and commitment and so on? So what was your inspiration?
I think certainly my background in the field and having conducted probably more than 1,000 in-depth interviews in my career was probably pivotal in quite quickly knowing what the product should look like and what the core functionality should be. But I think it was really a lucky encounter with my co-founder, Domingo, when we met a couple of years ago, and he was career transitioning. I was in a point where I was lucky enough to be able to pursue new opportunities in an entrepreneurial way. So I would say that was quite a pivotal moment in finding the right partner to build this solution with, that had the technical skills and capabilities to put it together and continue improving it based on user feedback, sort of applying what we preach in a way.
It's funny too, because it's for user researchers. We could be some of the most picky people where we've done, hundreds of usability tests. And so I appreciate also that you're doing it for a field like ours. Well, is there anything, the sort of milestones or achievements that something you've been able to do that you're particularly proud of with Quallie?
I think the current achievements around accuracy of each individual answer, and especially the groundedness and the linking back to verbatim quotes. So this latest very simple feature is that little toggle I was showing you. But that to us, it's an incredible achievement, because it's very hard to get language models to stay in their lanes, right? And not hallucinate and finding the right quote consistently. And we're seeing unprecedented levels of accuracy. So that's something that we're very, very proud of. And generally, I think seeing also our users enjoying the tool as something that brings energy back in the teams, right? And it's there's a lot of our customers are saying, right, it's saving us so much time and it's doing the heavy lifting for us. It's like having a colleague that loves all the things I hate. We heard that before a couple of times. So knowing that these extremely smart people that works in insight strategy and innovation have more time to focus on what they're great at, which is crafting narrative, storytelling, strategic thinking. So that's always a great thing to see.
Yeah. No, completely agree. And I guess, as someone who's building a tool, you also have to be thinking forward, and you're building the next generation now. So where do you see Quallie evolving over the next while? I actually had a few years, but with the way AI is changing, of course, that's silly. But in general, how do you see Quallie evolving going forward?
Yeah, that timeline question, it's interesting because obviously AI is evolving so fast, and one of our principles at Quallie is we want to build a very intuitive and usable interface with very smart language models, and with the awareness that these language models are only going to get faster, smarter, and better at what they do. So we have quite a unique focus on UX and usability in the platform. In terms of where we see this heading, just a little bit of context, right? This started very much as it's a project solution. So it's going to help solve your next immediate pain point when it comes to, for example, your 40 in-depth interview project that needs a report by the end of the month, right? Where we see this heading is more of it's more of a repository type approach, where users won't only be able to query the individual project like I've just shown you, right? We're asking questions to the set of interviews about AI for UX, but we want to evolve it into a repository, broad sort of Q&A tool where I can ask questions across projects. And while this might seem very simple, it's actually quite a complex thing to achieve, because it obviously involves a certain level of almost like taxonomy thinking, and especially if we want this to work for sort of enterprise-sized clients, it needs to, again, be very precise, accurate, and it needs to work for people who maybe, middle managers in an insurance company, and they just want to type a couple of keywords and get to something very, very specific across thousands of interviews, right? So getting to the level of precision and accuracy that we have on a project level, but on a repository level, I think it's one of our big milestones that we have looking ahead in our roadmap.
Yeah. It is interesting to imagine, if I have that tool, how I might work differently. Actually, I did want to ask, you clearly are in the middle of, you're working with your customers, you've been a researcher, you're seeing how things are evolving. And also, I think you made a good point. Someone said in a conference once, all the AI tools are the worst they'll ever be right now. They're just going to keep getting better. So it is interesting to sort of future forecast and build appropriately, imagining these improvements. So in the same vein, how do you see us researchers or innovators or other groups that are using your product, how do you see sort of our process of getting insights evolving over the next while?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think will be probably, I'm hoping that these tools that we are releasing and that you've also been exploring as part of this series, they are hopefully gonna enable us to produce more research and better research than we were ever able to do. And just to, again, bring you back to a very practical example, I used to work on these multi-market research projects for Fortune 500 companies, and you would often have a 5-country study covering France, China, Brazil, and the UK and Italy. And then you would find yourself that 3 of the moderators that you hired on an outsourced basis are now gone, and you just cannot dig back into the data, right? So to me, the idea of having these repositories and having this type of AI interfaces with the research are enabling us to go back to the data, to give our insights a longer shelf life as well, right? Because now I'm able to not just rely on that one PowerPoint report that was generated by a consultancy or by my team, but I can actually go back and query the data and ask things that were maybe not even covered in the PowerPoint, that they may have emerged through conversation, but they maybe were not just a focus for that specific study. So yeah, my answer would be about better insights, longer shelf life of the insight as well. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, it's a interesting. So I don't claim to have the answers here either, but I can see 3 things going on. One is that it's getting easier to collect data, so we can do that more at scale, and sort of worldwide, so more inclusionary in that way. We have tools like yours that can make analysis of this tractable, so we can do 90 interviews and actually get meaningful data. And then there are things like you actually played a clip by Quallie of synthetic users. And so you've got these opportunities to potentially use those things to inform your thinking or to help frame conversations you would have with real users and so on. So I guess on one hand, I can see the value you're creating is I might be able to get the answers I need without testing new people. So there might be that opportunity to just get more value of what I've already got. So yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to evolve in terms of the amount of research or the way we're going to focus it, but it's interesting. Anyway, I don't know, is there anything you've thought of in that regard, of between these sort of getting more data and synthetic users and the kind of tools you're using?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've seen that it's quite a controversial topic, the whole topic around synthetic users and AI moderated interviews. I do think there is a place for that. In my mind, they're just very different methodologies, right? And I am looking at the industry I'm looking at the industry from a very narrow point of view and scope, which my entry point has always been in-depth interviews. It's always been contextual inquiries and ethnography, and that's sort of the camp I am rooting for, right? And I don't believe that it will be made redundant from AI moderated interviews or synthetic users. I think they're just going to be an extra toolkit in that researchers, an extra tool in the researcher's toolkit, right? Which should not be looked down upon. And I do see, I think, the best consultants in the future will be fluent in all of those methodologies, and should be considering synthetic users, or maybe combining, a little bit of in-depth qual. Maybe you won't need 50 hours of recording, you might just need 10, and then you could supplement that with some AI moderated interviews. And I see a space for collaboration emerging among tools rather than necessarily one replacing the other.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very thoughtful answer. And actually, even Quallie and some of that, if we searched it in your tool, he was really saying that, hey, this is a great way to accelerate what you might be asking users or testing your questions or other things like that, and using it as a stepping stone to getting to the most value you can get when you do interview your users. So really
And
interesting.
there's many reasons why we do research, right? For instance, with our customers, we're working with those people who are, as I mentioned, doing strategic insights, transformation projects, and the quality of the insight is pivotal and is so central because the outcome of the research may involve a total rehaul of a product line or a total transformation of the customer experience for very large companies, right? And it doesn't mean that sort of synthetic users won't be able to inform these type of projects, but they can certainly be helpful for other types of research. And for example, I often compare, say, usability testing research versus in-depth qualitative research, right? And for usability testing, where you need to sort of quite quickly get a sense of, is my onboarding process clear? Are people succeeding or failing this 5-step process that I designed? Maybe you don't need to spend 50 hours on Zoom with customers. You just need to get 50 people through a prototype really quickly, and it doesn't really matter if there's a human talking to them or not in that sense. So the right tools for the right research, that would be my approach to it.
Fair. Yeah, I totally agree. Well, let me make sure we stay focused on Quallie. So if people wanted to give Quallie a try, how do you recommend they get started?
Yeah, you can check out our website, which is Quallie.Ai, spelled with a Quallie.ai. There is a button that says Get Access that will take you through an onboarding process where you can book a demo and we can set you up on a free trial. We're offering a free trial for your first project, or you can message me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to talk to you there.
Very cool. Well, Marco, thank you so much, and both for your thoughtfulness and for getting the opportunity to share some of Quallie with us. And so I'm really glad we had this. So let me just go ahead and I'll sign off our little conversation here. Great. Well,
Thanks for having me, John.
You're welcome. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and keeping up on the latest for AI for research. And of course, subscribe and tell us what you'd like to see featured next. And wishing you brilliant insights with AI.